What's up, people? It's your boy Raww coming to you with another episode of the Houston Sports Connoisseurs. Hey, don't forget to seek, listen, and learn to be a sports connoisseur just like me, your boy Raww the Connoisseur. I got Corey on here with me today, people.
Hey, glad to be back. How everything been, man?
Man, shit, you know how life is.
Alright, no, hey, last time I was here, my Jaguars on the top of the world. I come back now, we in a 3-way tie for first place, man. We going downhill. Oh, it hurts. It hurts.
Hey, y'all cheated us.
Oh, man, here you go with it. We didn't cheat, bro. The rest just looked in our favor that one good time. We didn't make no advantage out of it. We 8-6 just like y'all now.
All that cheating just caught up with y'all. But it's cool, but hey, today people, me and Corey, we're gonna actually be talking about college football, talking about the realignments that has happened around college football from the SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, Big 10, and then possibly what could possibly be happening with the ACC and where that could actually be going as well.
Man, there's been some crazy times in college. College like that ex-girlfriend that just don't want to let it go, man. Or she end up probably trying to get with your best friend or something. It's like, oh, we not good right here, but we'll be better over there. Don't worry. That's exactly what Colorado did. Colorado's like, hey, man, we trash in the Pac-12. Let's go to the Big 12. We're going to be good now.
Well, you know what? Not only Colorado, but even Colorado little friends, the groupies that hung out with Colorado. Arizona State, Arizona, Utah was the biggest groupie of them all, that came from the Pac-12. And then BYU, they was independent, which joined the league this year. And you had U of H, and Cincinnati and UCF. So right there, that's 16 teams, that's competitively going to be playing in 2024 in the Big 12. And there may be more to come. But right now, you just look at the other teams, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU, Baylor, Kansas State, Iowa State, and West Virginia. I think this is a really good conference. I think it's going to be overlooked because when we talk about the Big Ten, the SEC, I think a lot of these schools people may consider not to be major schools, or they may say
they like middle tier.
Yeah,
I feel like don't get me wrong. It's no shot at any of the schools that's in the Big 12 as a whole, because I feel like TCU, Colorado, Utah, U of H, those are still excellent programs to be a part of. Even Oklahoma State, these are excellent programs. But when you consider teams in the SEC, teams that's in the Big Ten that's constantly in the playoff picture, always making a playoff push, then that kind of just pushes all the teams in the Big 12 down a notch. Then that's the only reason why we're saying that. Because, when you look at it, can these schools compete with Georgia, Alabama on a yearly basis?
Yeah.
I don't really think they can. Now, I feel like some of these schools probably could, give them a run. But can they actually beat them? That is yet to be seen.
It's funny you say that, because when you look at college football, I would say the last 5 years, some of these schools have been the most relevant in the schools that actually left the Big 12, with the exception of Oklahoma. Yeah. Texas ain't been relevant, bro. You know what I'm saying? They ain't been relevant since the time 2012 when they made it to the national championship.
Oh, was it Colt McCoy?
Yeah, I think that was 2012 or something like that, right? And
wait a minute, it's been that long? So wait a minute. So let me make sure. Has a team from the Big 12 been to the playoffs? Has Oklahoma ever been to the playoffs?
Oklahoma has.
I feel like they have with Jalen Hurts.
I believe they have. I want to say they have.
But Texas never been to not Texas, the playoffs. They played in the national championship game. They've never played in the playoffs, right? Or just their first year actually
Texas
playing.
Texas has never played in the playoffs.
Oh, so this is their first time ever?
Ever, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And TCU, they was just in the national championship.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about that. I blocked that shit out of my memory. I blocked that shit out.
It's hard to talk about, but I mean, they was there, and that's
no, they wasn't there. They weren't there. They
got there. Let's say that.
Yeah, they got there. They didn't show up for the game, but they got there.
You know, but Oklahoma, yeah, I believe they've been in the playoff, but they didn't do good. They did better than TCU did in the national championship. But hey,
cool.
Oklahoma never made it to the national championship. I know Oklahoma State almost got in, I think, but they had got upset.
Because I'm trying to see
Kansas State. I believe, did Kansas State make it?
Hell, they ain't never made the playoffs.
Oh, well, they was close.
They was close.
But, I mean, my whole point is, bro, when we look at the Big 12, and we look at the former teams, or not former, current former teams before the alignment, a lot of those teams are still in the Big 12 that was actually running the conference. You know, TCU, Oklahoma State, Baylor. I mean, Baylor fell off now, but, you know, Texas Tech, you never know what you're going to get out of them. They'll upset anybody. You know, Kansas State has been pretty relevant these last 4 years, I would say, most definitely. You know, it's a lot of good teams. Then you add Cincinnati in there that just came off, you know, 2 real good seasons of football. I know they had a down season this year, but they added a lot of good football to me in this conference. And with the Pac-12 teams coming in, like Utah has been real good. I mean, they've been running the Pac-12. USC ain't been relevant. That's another team. So, like, we hype up these schools, you know, like USC and Oregon and Washington and things like that. But a lot of the schools that they left behind, you know, was the schools that was dogging them. And I feel like part of that is because of that, because USC kind of lost their relevancy, you know, to me, to be honest.
And I thought Lincoln Riley was going to be able to pick it back up for him, but it still hadn't worked out. Now, answer this question for me, because I've always wanted to know this. When schools realign themselves with other conferences, is it more for revenue purposes, or is it more just for exposure? To, like, for them to be seen more on a bigger scale?
I think, like, for this realignment purpose, like, it depends on the school. Like, U of H is for exposure and, what was the other one you said, like, monetary value or something like that? I think, it's for both, like, exposure and monetary value. Any of those schools, U of H, UCF, Cincinnati, those are all exposure and monetary value. But everybody around the nation know about those schools, but now they really know about them.
Because they on a higher scale. That's what I was trying to see.
Not only is U of H just playing, you know, they not just playing Cincinnati like year round like they was in the American Conference, but now they playing some big dogs. They playing Texas Tech, Baylor. They playing more regional schools that's going to help them regionally get better as far as recruiting. And you get a lot more money. Like, they money done tripled. So that's right there is going to make the school night and day.
Man, I thought Rice was in the Big 12. They left?
Nah, Rice ain't in no Big 12. You think about the SWC.
Oh, man. I don't know why I thought Rice was in the Big 12.
Nah. You know, I really would like to see Rice, like, really prosper like that, but...
Yeah, I know they're not ready for it.
But,
I know they did have a good season.
Yeah, they did have a good season.
They did have a good season, but I know they wasn't ready for that kind of magnitude scale.
And even if they was in a big conference, power conference, Rice would still be at the bottom because it's too hard to get in there academically. You know what I'm saying?
Now that Texas is leaving, does the Longhorn Network just become just like the Big 12 network?
No,
because they can't take that with them to the SEC.
They can't take it to the SEC, but the Longhorn Network is owned by the University of Texas, so I guess they just gonna.
I thought it was owned by the Big 12, and they just gave them because you know how when you go to different states, you know you probably got like the Sooners Network and you know stuff like that. So I'm thinking it was just all broke down bases like so you could see the games.
No, that's the reason why A&M had left the Big 12 in the first place, because Texas had created their own network. Instead of making like a conference network, like how the SEC, ACC, even Pac-12, all of them conferences have a network except the Big 12 right now. You know what I'm saying?
So that's what they probably need.
UT, they created their own network and it made them, you know, have a whole bunch more money, cash flow going towards their program. And that was the biggest issue. That's why a lot of those teams left the Big 12 like 10 years ago.
Hey, that's crazy. So I'm not, look, I ain't trying to sound like a blonde or nothing, but I really thought that really was like the Big 12 network, and I thought like each city you in or whoever represent the team, like that our primary focus because we live in Texas is the Longhorn, so they just named it the Longhorn Network based on our TV viewing.
Nah, not at all, bro. Not at all.
Really had their own channel for real.
Yeah, they had their own channel designated for University of Texas football, and everybody else just came on ABC, Fox, or whatever. Whatever channel was gonna be showing them that day for the game. But that's no more for UT, and now they gotta join hands with Alabama and all of them as far as the networking.
But they gonna make a lot of money being in the.
They gonna make even more. They gonna make
even more money.
So with that being said, let's just talk about some of these conference games. For future Big 12 opponents in 2024. Let's look at Colorado. In 2024, Colorado be at home facing Baylor, Cincinnati, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and Utah. So at home, they get one of their usual foes in Utah, but then they take on a lot of new schools. Baylor, I think they'll beat Baylor. Cincinnati might be tough. Kansas State, that could be tough. And Oklahoma State, that could be another tough game. So to be honest, I mean, we don't know what Deion gonna do, in
right
year
now,
2, but
their recruiting class is fluctuating right now. They losing players, they gaining players, but the main player that he did want, that offensive lineman, he did gain him. Shador's coming back. Shiloh's gonna be back. So those are two key components. Travis Hunter's gonna be back. Mm-hmm. So looking at the schedule right now, based on them, can I see a winning season? Because I don't believe they have enough to beat Oklahoma State. They don't have enough still to beat Utah. Kansas State gonna really give them a run for their money because that little freshman that they had this year subbing in, he actually looked good. Cincinnati always gonna give you a tough game. I don't care who.
And Cincinnati actually,
who they play.
Cincinnati actually is having a good recruiting year this year as well, and they'll be back before you know it. And I mean, hell, they didn't look too bad, against U of H, but U of H was looking horrible. So
let me see. Let's see. So Baylor, that's a win. Cincinnati, I don't see it. Kansas State, no. Oklahoma State, no. Utah, no. Arizona, yes. Kansas, man, I don't know. Because Kansas beat Oklahoma this year. And I feel like they improving.
Oh, and people...
that's a toss-up.
Arizona, Kansas, Texas Tech, and UCF is on the road
I can see them beating
for
UCF.
Colorado.
I only see them winning and then, honestly, they going to win more games out of conference than they are in.
Yeah.
I only see them going maybe 6-6 this year.
Yeah, because I was going to say, we don't even know who they're playing in 2024, out of conference. But as far as in conference, these are the teams.
It ain't looking good.
And it's looking pretty tough for Colorado. But you know what? I will say this. Just looking at the 2023 season, how Colorado finished, all those games he was pretty much in, for the exception for maybe 1 or 2 games. So
yeah, but the defense is the problem. And look, Texas Tech, that spread offense, they gonna have problems with that. Their secondary is very average.
But they're gonna improve. But I think the one thing that's gonna help Colorado going into 2024 is the offensive line improving, because Shador, man, that dude got sacked I believe 50 something times. And still, with that being said, he still, had a good ratio as far as touchdowns versus interceptions. So I think the games is really gonna fall on Shador next season. He's gonna really have to stretch the field, make plays, because he's gonna have an offensive line to protect them going into year 2.
Yeah, he is a Heisman favorite, and I think that's gonna still continue.
Yeah, but looking at the Houston Cougars schedule, I know I talked about it by myself on a previous podcast, but now that I got you here, you can kind of throw in what you think. At home, Houston will be facing Baylor, Iowa State, Kansas State, and Utah. And then on the road, Arizona, BYU, Cincinnati, Kansas, and TCU. I think they'll beat Baylor. The Iowa State game, I don't know what kind of team
the Cyclones going to have, because they always up in there too. 1 year they good, 1 year they bad, one year they good. I feel like they really go topsy-turvy a lot.
Yeah.
Kansas State, we got to redeem ourselves from
I think they win now.
With the new regime that we have in Houston, I feel like that game is going to be a whole lot closer. I can't guarantee a win, but I feel like the game will be extremely more competitive and it's going to be closer. Utah, it's going to be really our first time really just being exposed to them and like what their offense really brings and how our defense can adjust. So that game is going to be interesting to watch. Arizona, I feel like we can beat them. BYU, I know we can beat them. Cincinnati, that's going to be a dogfight. We've been fighting with them for years. So that one's up in the air. Kansas, that's like I said about the Colorado game, it's up in the air because they have really improved as far as like their offense and their run game. So it's kind of really hard to see like where we are because our weakness last year with Houston was our run defense. So we really have to be able to find some recruits in the trenches to really just improve that. And then you already know TCU, that's going to be a fight. You know, that one came down to the wire. So I feel like that's going to come down to the wire again because I don't feel like TCU is going to repeat how they did this year. But I know for a fact they're going to improve, but I just don't know how much.
Yeah. I think Houston is going to be a lot better next season, you know, with the coaching change. Willie Fritz being at the helm. Seeing what he did at Tulane, how he changed that program around, and also seeing what he has done for University of Houston. I think in about 2 weeks, he has got a top 10 recruiting class through the transfer portal. He also got like a top 50 recruiting class for high school athletes so far. You know, they just had signing day, things like that. He got some damn good recruits on signing day. So I think this University of Houston team is definitely going to look different. I don't really know what kind of system they run, but
you do?
I said I don't.
I don't. I was like, oh, hell yeah, tell me.
I don't know what kind of system that he's going to run. But looking at the Tulane offense, I know they used to do a lot of running, you know, through the running back. So I expect them to have a good run game.
We'll have some solid backs.
And come into 2024.
And we're gonna have a quarterback that's gonna be elusive too, that can get out the pocket and create plays.
I think he's gonna have a lot of things going for this team. And then I'm just gonna look at this point. Houston already had an explosive offense, and Dana Hogerson just didn't take the chances to really make it be the best that it could really be. I mean, as far as receivers, they all there from 1 through 3. I know Golden, he going to UT. He take his little money, whatever, and ride his little boat on down there. That's cool.
Oh, he went on ahead and accepted the transfer portal?
Yeah.
Wow.
After all that talk, how he was saying that he was committed at 1,000%, you know, blah, blah, blah. But
you know, that money talk, man. We've already discussed this.
Yeah, the money
will always talk.
The money will talk. And I think, you know, going forward, that's going to be a big difference for college football. And a lot of that money talking is why we got realignments, you know. But looking at the Big Ten, Big Ten got now with 18 teams.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's 8 over 10.
So what are you, the Big 18 now? I don't get it.
I don't know.
What do they call it? You can't call it's like just like the Big 12. You can't call yourself the Big 12. You got 16 teams. You can't call yourself the Big 10 because you no longer have 10 teams. But I know y'all have already trademarked and stamped that, so you can't change it at this point.
Yeah, and you know, like some of those conferences, they actually like kind of trademark other names. So like the Big 10, I think they can't jump and say they're gonna be the Big 18 or something because the Big 12 probably already did it or something, stamped it before.
Yeah,
or something like that. At least that's what I heard. But looking at the Big 10, man, they add UCLA, USC, Washington. Oregon, my bad, and Oregon. And
they got 4 good teams.
With those 4 good teams, I would say that Oregon and Washington has been the most competitive. UCLA and USC been some middle tier dogs. Yeah. USC, they was better last year than this year, but overall they're mediocre.
They get good recruits, but I feel like teams like, don't get me wrong, I feel like USC, UCLA, and Oregon, all they did was just open up a pipeline for them to actually lose recruits. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I say that, because if I got a chance, if I'm from California, I'm a star wide receiver, and USC comes knocking at my door and Ohio State comes knocking at my door, I know I'm going to take Ohio State because I have a better opportunity to get more exposure. Not to say that USC and UCLA aren't good schools, but think about it like this. Look at Marvin Harrison Jr. as opposed to like Drake London. look at the tier and echelon to like how they were trained and how higher they went and how high they're gonna go in the draft. Marvin Harrison Jr. just won the award for best wide receiver, even though it was 3 other receivers that had more yards, more touchdowns than him. But it's just the fact that he's getting the exposure because of where he goes to school at. Mm-hmm. And I feel like all they did was just open up a pipeline to where some of the best receivers come out of California, and all you did was just open them up for the Big Ten to take them from you. Yeah. Because they either going to Michigan, they either going to Ohio State, and if they can't make it there, some of them still might even go to Penn State, because those are the most competitive schools that you have. Then you'll think about, okay, well, I'll go to Washington, or I'll go to USC, or I'll go to Oregon. But then you got to think about it like this. Who is my quarterback? Will I get into a system where I know I'm going to get the ball too? At Ohio State, you're going to get the ball if you're a receiver. Yeah. So it's kind of unfair that they actually dealt the death blow to themselves as far as like recruiting, because now they on a back burner because they have 2 higher echelon teams in the conference with them. Mm-hmm. At least in the Big 12, it's all even. Everybody's still fighting for a spot, so there's no clear-cut number 1 favorite team in the Big 12. I would say this about the Big 12. The Big 12 is even right now. But I think it's even. I think Houston has the chance to be the flagship school in the Big 12. It being, the location now being Power 5, with people like Tillman Fertitta back in the program, I feel like Houston has a chance to be a flagship school, and Utah. Yeah. Because I feel like Utah is going to control everything on the West Coast, and we don't control everything pretty much as far as like central to the east. Mm-hmm. But as far as like everything coming from like West Coast, and believe it or not, you might think I'm crazy. It's going to be a lot of kids from Texas, from Oklahoma, that's going to look at Utah too. That's still going to give them a chance, because it's like, okay, and Colorado. Because I feel like Colorado going to pull a lot of recruits too just because of Dion. Yeah. I was going to say this, I think the one thing that USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon, the thing that those 4 schools don't have going for them is location. When you look at the location of those schools in comparison to all the other schools been in the Midwest, it can go either way, because somebody that's staying in Ohio or whatever, they might be like, man, I can go to LA, play in perfect weather, True. And all the other little things that might be, sticking out to them about LA, they might like. But also, I see a kid from Ohio's maybe being homesick and being to a point like, dang, man, my parents can't really come see me play, or my family, can't really see me play because I'm always at USC. But sometimes NIL gonna give them that money. Think about it like this: if it's a school, look, out of all them schools that's in the Big Ten right now, which one do you think can pay the most money to a kid? And I want you to be dead honest. Which one of these 18 schools you feel can get you the biggest NIL deal? And you already know the answer. Don't be sitting there trying to play. USC. No. You don't think? I think it's Ohio State and Michigan. Ohio State and Michigan can bring you the money. I don't know if they got more money than USC. No. Hey, I feel like now, as far as like money, I feel Ohio State number 1, Michigan number 2, USC number 3, and I think like Oregon should be like number 4, and then Washington number 5. I say Oregon definitely got a lot of money just because of Phil Knight, Yeah. And Nike. That right there was really gonna stick out to them. I think, I'm gonna be honest though, I feel like UCLA, UCLA is really irrelevant when it comes to football. They be decent. But they got money though. They be decent. But I feel like they spend more money on basketball. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think they basketball is what really is gonna do it for them. But it's like, man, the thing about them too is that they can't go nowhere without each other. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, because that rivalry keeps them relevant with each other. Yeah, and not only with each other but with the nation. Yeah, they weren't gonna separate that. That's like Michigan and Ohio State splitting up. And then it's like they needed Oregon, because Oregon is what really kept the Pac-12 relevant over the past decade. You know what I'm saying? And Washington is just getting there.
They just
Yeah, like Washington had a spurts, but when you think of Pac-12 football, the first school that comes to mind nowadays is Oregon.
Yeah. So with all those schools, going into the Big Ten, and adding to the rest of these schools, you got some middle tier schools, you got some big dogs, like we said, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. But like,
No, I can't lie.
Who
Nebraska need to go back to the Big 12.
Bro, you sound like Trey. I think Trey said that, bro.
No. I'm not saying, but they a bottom feeder. That's just like in the SEC. Why is Vanderbilt in the SEC? There's no reason for them to be there
because
they don't
because
do anything for the
because they've been there for who knows how long, and also they a private school, so and they got good academics. So
academically, they need to move to the Ivy League.
But academically, it make the SEC look good though.
No, it don't.
Yes, it do because they got good.
You talking about like academically? Okay.
Yeah, academically, it make the SEC look good.
They need
but
to
also,
move to the
bro,
Ivy
they
League
so tied into the SEC, they ain't going nowhere, and they a whipping boy every year. It's an easy win for some of the teams. So
they like Arkansas Pine Bluff, man, or Arkansas Baptist, bro. It is no good. Man. Like it's really unfair. Just like you can already tell looking on here right now, you already know which school right now is gonna be the whipping boy next year. You know it's gonna be Michigan State because they in turmoil because of Mel Tucker. Northwestern because they can't never keep it consistent. Indiana, they just not good at football at all. That's a basketball school. And good old Nebraska.
Illinois is pretty poor too.
They fluctuate to me. The fighting a lot now. They sometimes you might catch them with a good record, but most and I haven't seen Purdue relevant since Drew Brees was there.
They had a good season last year, I think. But I mean, overall, bro, like, what two teams you think is really gonna stick out of this conference?
In this conference,
going into next year, 2024. I mean, let me see, Ohio State. They're gonna be playing Michigan State, Northwestern, Oregon, and Penn State on the road. And at home they'll have Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Nebraska, Purdue. I feel like Ohio State gonna stick out. That Oregon game gonna be pretty important for Ohio State. But we look at USC schedule. They playing Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, UCLA, Washington, Nebraska, Penn State, Rutgers, Wisconsin. I'll be honest, bro. Just looking at that,
they schedule hard.
Yeah, I think
because they're not gonna beat Wisconsin. They're not gonna beat Penn State. They're not gonna beat Washington.
I think they'll beat Wisconsin. I don't think they'll beat. Michigan. I don't think they're gonna be.
It's a home game. Yeah, if it was an away game in Wisconsin, they wouldn't survive.
Yeah, I don't think they'll beat Michigan. I don't think they'll beat Penn State or I think they'll beat Wisconsin, Michigan, Penn State, and Washington. Those three losses to me right there for USC.
Hey, Minnesota gonna be hard for them too, depending on what time of year they play. If they play Minnesota in the colder months, shit gonna be hell.
That's one thing we didn't talk about. Like, how do you think
these teams going to adjust to this weather?
How do you think the weather is really going to affect them going, from the West Coast to actually going somewhere where it's just frigid? I think Oregon and Washington may adjust a little bit better.
I thought Washington play in a dome.
No, Washington play outside.
Oh.
They play outside. Oregon and Washington play outside. But even then, they cold ain't nothing compares. In comparison to them. Up there in the Midwest, Minnesota, frigid.
Man, so, Minnesota. If they play them in November, it's a wrap.
Yeah, and so let's see. Oregon, they playing Michigan on the road, Purdue, UCLA, and Wisconsin. Washington playing Indiana, Iowa, Oregon, Penn State, Rutgers on the road. UCLA playing Nebraska, Penn State, Rutgers, and Washington. Honestly, I mean, looking at their road games, bro, like on for those new 4 teams, I feel like it's kind of gravy for them right now. We don't know like how they align on the schedule, just looking at what we're looking at, but
and then Maryland might give a couple of them
a
fight too.
I think they got it kind of easy, bro.
Hey, let me tell you something. Out of all the conferences, UCLA, USC, Oregon, and Washington could have picked, they actually picked a difficult ass conference. They should have just stayed where they was at, to be honest. But I feel like they felt like, we're in the Pac-12, we get overlooked, so we never get into the playoffs because we're in the Pac-12. Mm-hmm. So let's move to the Big Ten. I'm like, shit, you just make shit harder for yourself. Same thing with Texas and Oklahoma. I understand you did it just for exposure, but what school in the country don't know about the Sooners and Longhorns? Yeah, like, come on, like there's nothing that you could have did to really just make yourself bigger than what you already are. Yeah. Like now you got to go through all these years of battling with not only Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, then you got to play Georgia, then you got to think about how long it's gonna take for you to even win the SEC title. Mm-hmm. Messing with them schools. Yeah. Like you barely got the Big 12 championship.
Man, flipping the page to the SEC, I ain't gonna lie, bro. I'm just looking at Michigan. Like, I see that they gotta play Texas next year in 2024. But I'm just thinking, like, okay, Michigan, they play Illinois, Indiana, Ohio State, Washington, Michigan State, Minnesota, Northwestern, Oregon, USC, and Texas.
Can't go undefeated. Bro, can't go undefeated again.
Michigan got a tough ass schedule, bro.
Hey, they're gonna need Jim Harbaugh more than ever. The real question is he really even gonna be there?
Yeah, because he got the recruiting thing they got going against him now, talking about he was doing some illegal recruiting.
Yeah.
So
that's what I'm saying. So it's like, that penalizes him. So that means his recruiting class is going to be slim pickings now.
Maybe not.
Nah, because you can't do, well, he got busted, because he was recruiting too early.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. He was recruiting early. Then he should have.
I don't really feel like it should be even a stipulation on how early you can recruit, bro. Like, that's the name of the game in college football. It's just like, to me, the science still. I really don't feel like it should be even a such thing. You know what I'm saying? The name of the game is to try to get the leg up on your opponent.
I feel
so you can be, competitive. I don't know, bro. I just feel like it's so much out there they NCAA try to do.
The transfer portal.
And then it's like, then all these years, bro, it was a big problem for us to, for people to pay the players and stuff like that. And the players to make money off their name, image, and likeness. Now, all of a sudden, it's okay, and you could throw as much money as you want to at this player to get him to transfer. And you can go bother other kids at other schools and be like, hey, how about you come to Michigan? We're going to pay you 6 figures while he in the middle of his season. Like, that should be against the rules, you know what I'm saying?
That should. That's all the way illegal.
Because you got the player thinking about money and stuff instead of him thinking about, what he's doing this season or right in his right now. He thinking about, man, after this season, I'm hitting the transfer portal, bro. I'm finna try to hit Michigan or whatever the case may be. It's crazy.
At the end of the day, all this is just more ways for people to gamble. Is he gonna jump in the transfer portal? Is he gonna do this? Is he gonna do that? Because think about it. Oregon has already gained 2 quarterbacks?
I know they got one.
They got one from Ohio State. And I feel like one more transfer from somewhere else too. One transfer from UCLA.
Okay.
That's what happened.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, bro. And all this is another episode, really. But the way they transfer, it don't make sense. Yeah. Like the dude from Ohio State. What was really the point of him leaving? What are you gonna gain going from Ohio State to? Would you say he went to Oregon or whatever? What are you gonna gain out of that, bro?
Yeah, that's just like they ain't the same conference with you now.
That's just like the dude from Oklahoma, like him leaving. Y'all had a good season. You know what I'm saying? You had Oklahoma, bro. Yeah, where can you really? Why did you do that? Where can you really go?
Wait a minute. Where did he go? Is that the one that went to Oregon?
Maybe that might be the one.
That might be the one that went to Oregon.
So, but okay, he went from Oklahoma to Oregon. Oregon, I'm pretty sure don't have more money than Oklahoma. They got a lot of money, but they ain't got more money than Oklahoma. So, if you transferring for NIL money, I don't think you're getting more at Oregon than you is at Oklahoma. Now you might get some more Nike fits, what I'm saying, on the side or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But is that really worth transferring for?
Hey, honestly, I feel like if I'm already at a Power 5 school, and it's different if I'm not starting or something like that, but you started. If anything, I would think you would want to go to like a smaller school to pad your stats to make you look even better than what you already are. So like if I was him, if I was at Ohio State, we didn't beat Michigan and we lost, I play in the pole game and I transfer somewhere like North Carolina, Duke, Clemson, somewhere small. Or I transfer to like Notre Dame or something. Somewhere where I know for a fact that our schedule is going to be moderate, but good enough to where it's still going to push me into the echelon that I need to be for the draft at that point.
Yeah.
He went all the way backwards. He say, I'm finna go from Ohio State to Oregon.
So,
what?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just don't understand. Like, do he got some in his mind that it's a system, that's going to fix whatever was going wrong with him throughout the season? Or, like, I don't know. Like I said, that's a whole nother
You can't change nobody holding on to the ball. That's a trait that's in his mind.
Yeah.
He's holding on to the ball thinking he can extend the play. That's not going to change. Like, a coach can't make you just change that overnight. Like, yeah, you might take, instead of doing a 7-step drop, he might, get you to conform to like a 3-step drop and just let it go. But at the same time, the minute you feel pressure, you're going to hold on to it again.
Yeah.
Or you're going to scramble for no reason. People don't understand how intelligent you have to be a quarterback, whether it's college, high school, pros, whatever. You got to be able to not only read defense, you got to be able to know when to step into the pocket, when to get out of the pocket. You got to understand all of that. You got to know your reads, know your check downs, and you got to be able to do all of this within 3 to 5 seconds.
Yeah.
People don't understand just how hard that truly is.
So maybe he went to Oregon thinking that they're going to buy him a little extra time.
Shit, I don't know. They probably got some bigger Samoans, but at the same time, it's not buying you more time. Now, I ain't gonna lie to you. The way they turned Bo Nick's career around is tremendous.
Yeah.
Because they actually got this man projected to go either late first round or early second round. But when he was at Auburn, he wasn't getting hired in the 5th round pick.
That could be possible.
He was not getting hired in the 5th round pick, and you know this.
His career definitely, is shining at Oregon, or was shining. Well, you got UT and Oklahoma joining the SEC. Are they gonna shine in the SEC, or they like gonna dim a little bit? Because Alabama is always been top of the conference. Georgia as well. I think the rest of them schools, man, like Ole Miss, they be pretty competitive. Kentucky has been competitive as of late, but what is really what is really the big deal for Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC? I know it's money, but
I feel like they don't need, those two schools don't need money. So I don't really know do they feel like they need harder competition to get noticed? Because don't get me wrong. Now, if there was ever a conference for them to go to, now Texas, I feel like they did that to renew the rivalry with Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. That's more money. Then now they got this back and forth year rivalry with Alabama. That's more money. Because if you notice, nobody ever tried to pull a Georgia card. Now they got to play Tennessee. Now they got to play Georgia. Now they get to play Ole Miss. And it's all good for the SEC in the long run, because all it did was just, they got the 2 best schools out of the Big 12 just to inflate their status and give them the right to be called the best and most difficult conference in the country.
It's funny you say that, but I don't know, like I said on the last episode, I just don't feel like the SEC is really that difficult. Like,
very difficult. Because they recruiting from the best. They recruiting from the best states in the country.
They are, but when I look at their schedule, I guess the teams they play, even themselves, bro. Like, some of the teams they decent, but some of them really truly mediocre, bro.
I ain't gonna lie to you. This pipeline, but let me tell you the school that this is gonna help out the most, and you about to laugh at me so hard when I say this. Do you know? By opening up that little bridge to Texas and Oklahoma, do you know what the pipeline really helps out?
What?
Florida.
Florida?
It helps out Florida. And let me tell you why. Because Florida was getting blocked by Georgia and Alabama for so long. Mm-hmm. You got to realize it's nowhere else for them to go. some of that is going to trickle into Florida where they can actually be competitive again.
You could possibly be right about that.
Because you got to realize you live in Texas, you're used to the heat, you don't mind playing in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
You don't mind, and you know it's something to do in Florida. Tax wise, it's the same as Texas. Because I don't know how taxes are in Georgia and Alabama and Mississippi. I don't know how they are, but you know for a fact that Texas and Florida have the same tax laws as far as like you don't pay like a heavy tax.
Yeah.
So that's perfect.
I don't know, man. I look at this schedule, bro. So, like Florida, they play Miami, and then who's Sanford?
Well, they gotta play Miami. That's they shit.
I know, but then they play a school named Sanford, and they play A&M. They play Mississippi State.
Oh, that's not Stanford.
No, that's Sanford.
Oh.
And then they play Central Florida, and Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, UT, LSU. I would say the back end of their schedule is pretty tough. Because I know Ole Miss has been pretty good. Florida State has been pretty good, and Florida State's trying to get the SEC. I'll tell you this. I really think that the SEC needs to add Florida State. Because not only will it keep a rivalry, ongoing with Florida, but it also adds another Florida school to their conference. Because
honestly, that is genius. But I would do this. I would take Florida State and Clemson.
I could see Clemson because
I would take both.
Then you got what Clemson is in North Carolina or South Carolina?
Yeah, it's in North Carolina.
So you add another Carolina school to compete with South Carolina, which them two don't really like each other anyway. So I think those are good things. I would say if anything, what the SEC, bro, is really trying to do is put together all the schools that have rivalries with each other.
Yeah, in the South.
Or
just trying to build.
Or create new rivalries like a Texas-Georgia rivalry, a Texas-Florida rivalry, a Texas-Tennessee rivalry, like deep South rivalries, I guess you would want to say. But to me, like I said, overall, I just don't feel like this conference is that... I don't know. When I look at the Big Ten schedule, bro, and I looked at who's in there, those 18 teams, I felt more like surprised by like who them teams was playing. And then I just look at the level of competition. I just feel like the Big Ten is going to be more entertaining, per se, throughout the year. Because overall, we know what we're going to get out of some of these schools, bro, when they face, like, Alabama. We know Ole Miss is always going to fold. Kentucky going to fold. Missouri going to fold. Like, yeah, they going to be in the top 25, but when it comes to certain schools, they just going to fold, bro. And now the question is Texas and Oklahoma going to fold against Alabama and Georgia on throughout the seasons?
But you know how I feel. Missouri need to go back to the Big 12. They don't belong. They don't belong in the SEC.
They really don't. They
really
don't.
don't.
I'll be honest though.
They need to go back. They need to go back to the Big 12.
I don't really feel like any of these Texas schools really belong in the SEC. Just me being honest. I don't know. From my own perspective, I just don't really feel like they belong.
Texas A&M never fit. And that's why they get beat the way they do.
Yeah.
But I feel like, honestly, Missouri can go back. I feel, let me see. It's one more school you can take out of there, too. No. You know what? Take Kentucky out.
Trey said that. But I don't feel like... I don't feel like they should be taken out. I don't. I feel like they fit just
Man,
what...
If they go somewhere like the Big 12, had that Kentucky and Kansas rivalry right there, shit. That's
beautiful
nice,
right
but
there. Yeah,
because you got Kansas and Kansas State, that's a good rival right there. That's money right there for the Midwest.
Yeah, so
that's
you see Oklahoma play Houston week 2. That's what I was saying. They play U of H next year, but
and then they back down and play Tulane too. They got a hard little schedule out the gate. Then they come back with Tennessee and Auburn.
I mean,
those might be easy. Then Red River Shootout. South Carolina, that might be a win. Ole Miss ain't no telling. No.
I'm gonna say this, bro. I feel like the realignment between the two, Oklahoma and Texas, I think it's gonna help Texas more, like you said, because of rivalries. Because every year now they get to face Oklahoma still, They get to face A&M now. They get to renew that, and all that is just extra money, going towards both schools, and that's really going to help. And then look, they take Georgia on. Florida, Georgia, those are the schools that people want to see. Unfortunately, they ain't got LSU on there, but I'm pretty sure they're going to throw them in, and Alabama probably next season.
That's going to be soon. So, and then look though, and then I like the fact that Texas, Arkansas, that's going to be a good matchup. Texas and Florida.
And then that's an old foe. You got Arkansas.
And then, let me see. And you already know Georgia. That's going to be excellent. And then look though, they end the season in College Station. Bonfire, madness, bam. Because that's how it always used to be. Last day, you already know the last game of the year was always going to be Texas A&M. Same thing like Michigan, Ohio State. Same thing about fucking Alabama and Georgia. They always going to meet at the end, and there's going to be so many implications on the line for one of those teams, if not two. And look, then it always works out.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because let's look at the last game for every team, at the end of the season. Alabama play Auburn.
Iron Bowl.
Arkansas, Missouri.
I don't know.
Auburn, we already said Alabama, Auburn. Florida plays Florida State.
Oh, that's the battle of the down south right there.
Yeah. Then you got Georgia and Georgia Tech.
Rivalry.
Kentucky and Louisville, in-state rival.
Already.
LSU and Oklahoma.
That's a new rivalry.
That's a new rivalry.
That's a new one.
And then Ole Miss and Mississippi State.
Oh, they hate each other.
Mississippi versus Mississippi. Missouri and Arkansas.
Yeah, we talked about that one. Oh, then you got, so you was right. See, look, Clemson and South Carolina. That's why I said you can move Clemson into the SEC.
Yeah.
Because that's North against South.
Right. And then you got Tennessee and Vanderbilt, so that's an in-state rival. So transitioning into talk about the ACC breaking up, what do you think about Florida State possibly leaving the ACC and possibly joining the SEC and making a new rivalry for the SEC? Florida State versus Florida or something like that. Or what if Florida State leave and the SEC or the Big Ten, one of those schools, decide to skip Florida State? Because, I was thinking Florida State is a nice school. It's a big school.
Moneymaker. It has too much tradition.
It is.
Come on, man. Bobby Bowden. You got to think about all the A1 people who have went there over the years. And I still feel that might be Coach Prime's true destination. He just wanted to get a couple of schools under his belt before he takes on the reign of taking on his alma mater, which is Florida State. Whoever ends up getting Florida State, even if the ACC decides to keep them or whatever the case may be, they find a way to distribute the money out better, then whoever gets Florida State, trust me, they get a cash cow that can bring in the money. The only flaw is, I feel like with so many schools joining these conferences, is it more of a gain or is it more of a loss? Because you're splitting the money with so many schools.
Well, I was going to say, the more schools, the bigger the pie, especially when you add in somebody like Florida State. But the one school that's in the ACC that I think a conference like the Big Ten, possibly even the SEC would really like. I know for sure the Big 12 really like. They'll like a lot of those schools in the ACC to make the conference even more, much more competitive.
Yes.
But Miami would be that school. And I'm going to tell you why. Because it's the market, bro. We talking about a whole bunch of people, a lot of TVs, a big media market. It's all there. And also you got to look at the history of the U. For them to be able to get something back like that, if they can, get it going back to where it was in the early 2000s and stuff like that, and prior to that, then the U would be the perfect school to add to the SEC or to any of those other conferences.
Honestly, I think they would be great in the Big 12 because they're in a top tier, but they're not elite to where they just gonna come in there and just steamroll all the schools. They still gonna be competitive. They can still come out and get maybe 7-5, 8-4, 9-3, and still get them into a decent bowl, and they still get a good cut of the money to where they're not missing the ACC. That's actually good. because I feel like Florida State might be too much for the Big 12, and I feel like they would just dominate. And every now and then, I feel like every other year
I don't see that happening.
But they get a lot of good recruits.
They do, but I don't see them steamrolling nobody. And the reason I say that because Oklahoma and UT was just in the Big 12. Who was they steamrolling? Nobody. They was steamrolling nobody. They was getting steamrolled, if anything. I mean, Oklahoma was competitive.
To me, I feel like they just cancel out each other. They just really beating each other.
I mean, UT.
Like Baylor wasn't competing. TCU competes like every 5 years. Everybody make it seem like, I feel like Miami is more of a challenge in basketball than they are in football right now.
That's true.
Because even when De'Aaron King went to Miami, he wasn't really no big factor when he left Houston.
But like I said, I think, a conference change will open doors for Miami because, it allows everybody like in the Big 12 or SEC, whatever conference they join. I think especially the Big 10 would love to have someone like Miami because it gives them the insight on Florida now. Because, if they can add Florida, only thing, it would be kind of crazy because
you're getting receivers, you're getting running backs. But at the same time, we losing offensive linemen, defensive ends, we losing corners because they're going to pull them straight from Texas now.
Yeah, I would say this though, like I don't think Florida State would go to the Big 10 unless they add they're gonna have to add more schools than just Florida State on that end because you got to think about
that's too much in the north.
That's just Midwest and the West Coast teams. Now you got to move to the East, and then you add 3 time zones.
Yeah,
I just don't see it happening.
And then you got Florida State playing in the cold. They not gonna do that.
So if we got Florida State in the SEC or the Big 12, it makes sense because the Big 12, I think the Big 12 makes perfect sense. Because you already got UCF.
Give us Miami and Florida State. Just give them both.
And Clemson.
Oh, see, now you just add too much.
Bro, I mean.
You add too much iron to the fire, man. You add too much. Because you got to realize, those schools right there are going to demand more money than what the Big 12 is going to be willing to offer at the current moment. I'm not saying that we're not going to be able to meet them in their demands, but I feel like money-wise, are they going to get the same exposure? Because they're going to feel like, well, I just left the ACC because I was getting the exposure, but I wasn't getting the money. But look, now I'm getting the exposure, but I'm not getting the money.
The ACC stuck in a 20-year contract, though, and they getting paid in the low 30 millions. The Big 12 is getting paid something similar, 30 millions. And they only in like a 7-year contract or some 5-year contract. But they add another school or two, they got to redo the deal.
Yeah.
That means they got to add more money to the pot, especially if you add somebody like Florida State or Miami because of the media, bro. It's going to put more eyes on them.
Look, I'm not trying to cut you off. I'm just trying to figure something out. How much money are the SEC schools making?
So, we already know the Big 10 makes the most money, out of all the Power 5 conferences. We're talking about a $8.05 billion deal that they put together for the Big 10. And then, they added USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon. So they all in on that pot. Each school per school get paid $71 million a year from the Big 10. So that's what the Big 10 paying out, you know what I'm saying, from their TV contract. We're not talking about all the extra stuff, all the other nonsense boosters and all the other stuff, the money that they're getting.
You mean to tell me that Fox in the Big 10 conference are going to pay each school, let's go ahead and just round it up, $72 million. Every single school that's in the Big 10 gets $72 million.
Yep. And
but it's 18 schools.
Yeah, and this is just over, a 7-year period. So, in the next 7 years,
So they made almost $700 million. They've made over $700 million in a 10-year span.
Mm-hmm.
Each school.
And you see, the conference altogether, it makes at least $1 billion, $1.2 billion a year.
So, let me get this right. So this $72 million. So each school is getting $72 million. So is this what pays out like scholarships and things like that?
Man,
I want to know what the money actually. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just trying to figure out where all the money goes.
No, that's a good question because I think everybody wants to know where the money actually goes. That's what we always be asking. Like, okay, yeah, these schools get these big contract deals and stuff, but where is the money really going? yeah, we know some of it's going into the institution for academics and stuff, but most of it really going into the football program. And then the football program, whatever that money they making, is really stretching out to all the other sports. Because what's more important than football in any school? Nobody's generating more money than the football program. And for a school to be successful, they really got to have a successful football program, because that's where all the money goes. That's where all the backing starts. And then once you got a successful football program, now I can have a successful basketball program. Because football, basketball is the two money makers. But nothing makes money like football, because everybody's going to glue their eyes to TV when it comes to football. Basketball, we don't care about basketball until what? March Madness. And that, I think that stands true for pretty much everybody except the schools that really are blue blood, or what would you say, blue chip basketball schools like Kentucky, Kansas, or whatever. You know, outside of them schools, bro, who cares about basketball?
I ain't gonna lie to you. I always start getting excited when it's time for me to build a bracket, but then I get pissed because I don't be knowing what none of the schools. I just gotta look at the records, just go for glory. They're like, okay, I like this school. Yeah, I like this school. Yeah, okay, yeah.
And then we already knew, you know, coming in second is the SEC. The SEC had a long-term deal too, over 20 years or whatever. But that's going to shake up as well, because you had UT and Oklahoma jumping in there. So they got a $6 billion deal. All the schools getting paid about $55 million a year. But it appears in what ABC going to be paying $300 million a year. So they got like two different tiers on. They got a first tier and they got a second tier on rights. People, y'all got to really look into this. Like, it's really crazy how all this money is broken down to all these schools of 14 members.
Oh, great. So wait a minute. So basically, they getting paid the same. So basically, the big teams gets paid $2 million more, because you see what it say? It say $15 million a year, and then ABC is gonna come in. They gonna split the 355, and that's gonna break down to 14.6. So that's like another 15. So that's $70 million a year.
Yeah. And look, this the CBS deal expired in 2023, and then the ESPN deal expired in 2033. But like I said, the interesting thing is that all those schools, like, yeah, we see that the payout is probably even or whatever, but all those schools don't really make the same amount of money. Alabama makes way more money than all those schools.
And I know they're not giving Vanderbilt $70 million.
Yeah, they ain't giving.
They not. Yeah. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that, because look. So let's look at it like this. If I'm getting the same money as Alabama, Auburn, Texas, Oklahoma, there's no reason for me to even worry about if I know I'm 5 stars and I gotta sit in line and wait to play, and I know I can go to any school in the SEC and get the same amount of playing time. Why wouldn't I look at Tennessee? Why wouldn't I look at Kentucky, Vanderbilt?
Yeah.
Because I'm not finna. If I know I'm the top quarterback in my state, then I go there and they tell me, "Oh man, you're gonna be 4th string, bro." The fuck. And 2 of them freshmen.
Yeah, especially if you looking at going pro. You know what I'm saying? That's why they hop in that transfer portal. But a lot of players, they just hop in just to hop in nowadays. I don't understand. But now you see why the ACC is really, at a point where they finna lose schools like Florida State, Clemson, because we looking at the numbers right here. They got a deal till 2036.
Yeah.
It's $4.8 billion, but it's over 20 years. But then you see what the school payout is per year. It's only $17.1 million. That's nowhere near competitive to what everybody else is getting paid. And yeah, Florida State is a big school. Yeah, they getting extra money from their boosters and stuff like that. So imagine if Florida State could jump into the SEC, with the boosters they got and that extra money that they have not been receiving, they're gonna really explode. But even then, we talking about $17.1 million. We look at the Big 12. The Big 12, yeah, they had their deal that was $2.6 billion for 13 years, but that expires in 2024. So that's the old deal that they had with UT and Oklahoma and all those other schools. But now with all these new schools, they got the new deal that start. It's a 6-year deal, but they jumped from making $22 million per year. Even on that old deal, they were still making more than the ACC. And then the new deal, they jump into $31.7 million.
Hey,
but look,
good.
and here's the kicker though. If they add more schools,
they get
a pro rate data increase for the new schools. So that means the money's going to increase. So you add Florida State, Miami, Clemson, North Carolina to the Big 12. That's more money. We probably talking about $40 million a year.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I would actually take Duke too, and let me tell you why.
Basketball.
Well,
yeah, you know what? That's a good point too, because if you look at it, bro, right now, the Big 12 probably got the best basketball conference out there.
Yeah.
Especially with adding U of H, you know what I'm saying? And then you still got Kansas in there.
You still got Texas A&M, Texas. You got Oklahoma. You have even Kansas State. Surprisingly, is actually good in basketball too.
Bro, you added some schools in there that ain't in the Big 12, bro.
What was not in the Big 12?
He said A&M.
Oh, no,
you got Texas Tech.
They good.
They been good. They been competitive. But you got Kansas, like you said, you got Kansas and U of H and all those other schools. But you know, it's a lot of competitive basketball schools.
No, yeah, we probably, as far as that, we probably top tier.
But you see, like, all we talked about is football and basketball. Those are the money makers. Nobody watches college baseball.
Nah, because don't LSU and like Tennessee win every year?
That's pretty much it. You know, it was always the same old schools that's winning in baseball. I mean, it could be better, but I think the thing about baseball, why a lot of people skip out on that, is because you got a lot of players that go from high school to the pros and, you know, to the farm league or whatever, and they don't even go to college or whatever. Then you do got some that go, but
you know, I never knew you could do that. I never knew that you could play in the minor leagues and still be a college player in baseball.
Yeah.
So basically, you can play baseball year round.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And you could be a baseball player and play football. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do a lot with baseball. That's one of the sports I would say that's really.
And still, but the only thing about baseball, you don't make money until you actually hit the pros.
Yeah.
Like you literally making
because you ain't making that much money.
You only make like anywhere from $75,000 to $100,000 a year. That's a regular job.
And I think that's still a lot more than probably what a lot of them making.
Yeah.
So
because that farm is a long road.
Yeah.
Because I was talking to somebody about that. It's like you got to go from the Corpus Christi Hooks to the Sugarland Space Cowboys, or it might be the other way around, where like one is higher than the other because you got AAA, AA, single A, and then you actually got the pros.
I think the Space Cowboys is right under the Astros.
So they the single A.
They might be. I'm not really sure, but I just say that but they also could just do it because it's right there. But you know, a lot of times when they trying to get them back well into the motion, they always send them to the
they always send them there.
So, but I don't know. The last thing that we got to touch on is what is Washington State and Oregon State really doing? They call themselves putting a short-term solution for their basketball programs. They joined the West Coast Conference. You know, it's some competitive basketball schools in there, true enough, but who's really watching that conference? Nobody. Mm-hmm. And then also, it's like, why did they really try to keep this Pac-12 thing together with two schools? Why didn't they just go ahead and join the Mountain Western Conference all together instead of just putting like some kind of little some kind of agreement together where they're going to kind of follow the schedule of the Mountain West Conference, but not actually officially joining. So I guess my thing is maybe they're trying to wait until there's like another realignment or trying to find out how they're going to get into one of these Power 5 conferences. Because if you remember, the Big 12 didn't want neither one of them, you know, which is crazy. But also, it kind of makes sense because you got to look at the markets that they're in. What is really there to gain from Washington State and Oregon State? Nothing.
Yeah, the only one that's gaining.
You know.
But at the same time, I guess they feel like it's going to be a major decline by going to the Mountain West because they was in the Pac-12, so they probably making more money.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to be a major decline. And I think, you know, one of them or both of them will eventually jump into a Power 5 conference or they'll create a new conference because this goes to say that the ACC may dismantled, and those schools that was on the West Coast that just joined the ACC and Stanford and Cal, those two schools, they might be left on the outside at this point because you got to think who really wants them because Big 12 didn't want them.
Hey, I would take Stanford, but Cal, I don't know.
But see, them schools, bro, you really just add them schools to your conference for academic reasons.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't really see any other reason because Stanford hasn't really been good like that in years to really just be adding them. Or
now, women's basketball, they're good. And I think that's it.
But who really cares about women's basketball? It's not generating anything.
Yeah. Them kids make more money in college than they do in the WNBA, so it's no wins.
Exactly.
It's no
so
wins.
that could be a new conference, and then they could perhaps get some people poach them from the Mountain West. And then you got SMU that's kind of left out in the middle of the water too, especially the ACC break up.
Man,
it's gonna be real interesting,
SMU,
bro.
They probably gonna join something like Big Sky or something.
What's that, Big Sky? Hey. Bro, that's lesser than what the American was, bro.
Hey, but they can make some good money out there, though.
I think they're gonna eventually create a new conference or something. Something's gonna happen, or eventually conferences might go away, and then everybody just be independent. And I think you was talking about that before.
Yeah, but let me tell you something though. That shit gonna be crazy.
It's gonna be tough
because you don't know how. Because now I feel like the reason why you had these conferences is to create a scale. Like you already know SEC at the top, then you got the Big 10, then you got the Big 12, then you got the ACC, and now
then you got the Group of 5 conferences or whatever.
Yeah,
and they got a tier 2.
And then the crazy part is like it make you wonder, like, damn, how did Notre Dame survive so long like that, just trying to be independent?
Boosters.
But then they just joined so many different things. Like, hey, we'll play here this year, we'll play here next year. So basically, it's like everybody want to just play Notre Dame, and that's how they just keep their relevance. You know what I'm saying? Their relevance.
Yeah, I mean it's a successful program, but also if you look at Notre Dame, only thing that I think that's really independent is the football program. I think basketball and stuff is part of the ACC.
But the one thing I do though, if everybody go independent, you know what's gonna change? You gotta change that strength of schedule. You really gotta go out there and find some teams that you.
But also the thing that's gonna change, the major thing we was just talking about is TV money. Like how are they gonna write that out? Because now you gotta write that to individual schools.
Oh yeah, you losing
because you losing a whole bunch of money, and then that's the reason why there's conferences, because it was a lot to gain for all those schools coming together.
Or you might gain money because now you can do bigger contracts, saying like, oh, we're gonna have the Sooner Network or the Crimson Tide Network, the Longhorn Network will be rebuilt again. Yeah. Now we got the Seminoles network, because now everybody gonna have their own little network. Yeah. And then basically now you gonna get that with your package based on your region.
So I think at this point then television would really own college football. They really have control of college football.
And television own everything.
They really, already kind of got a lot of control, especially over the SEC. But at that point, you really have your hands in on every school.
Look, all of us in there had an ESPN Plus app. You see how much extra that shit costs to add on certain teams? Yep. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's no different. If you want to see your alma mater, hey, buddy. Right? If you don't, you go watch what we got available for you and still pay that monthly fee. Yeah. It's no different. You still gotta. If you go to a lesser school than what they actually have scheduled, you got to pay extra money to watch it on Facebook. And then what they're gonna do to stop you there? Facebook gonna start charging you to watch it too. Like it's no way around none of it. Everything is about money, and at the end of the day, it's either you got it to pay or you just don't.
You just don't. Yeah.
And it sucks because that's why I feel bad for Florida State, because they didn't do anything wrong. They just got succumbed to a bad deal, and really, man, 2023 just been a bad year for Florida State all the way around. You went 12-0, you don't make the playoffs, you make the worst amount of money out of all the conferences, Now you about to play Georgia, which is no.
And 20 players have decided not to play.
So it's gonna be ugly, bro. That's gonna be like 70-0.
I don't think it's gonna be that bad, but it's gonna be ugly.
It's gonna be uglier than that TCU game last year.
All right,
was ugly.
It might be.
Bro, they started the quarterback. So Travis Jordan hurt. He not playing. The other dude transferred, so now you got a freshman who never took a fucking snap playing in a bowl game against Georgia. Got me fucked up.
And not only that, we don't even know how many of those 20 players are really good players that was going to make an impact on the game.
Shit,
that's out there. Oh, and then Keon, what's his name? Keon Coleman or whatever. He not playing either.
And I don't even think Jerry First gonna play because he about to be a top 5 pick. So they screwed again.
Yeah, I mean honestly, bro, I really just don't understand why the players don't want to play.
I do.
I don't.
They got screwed.
I understand that, but you can still
what
go out there and make a point.
At this point. So look, guess what? If we go out there, we play our hardest, we beat Georgia, what do we get? We just get a shitty ass bowl win.
Okay.
That's it.
But
at the end of the day, we supposed to be playing for the national title because we went undefeated and you put teams with losses ahead of us because you based our talent based on a quarterback. That's what you based our talent on. You try to say the other 75 players on this roster are trash. The quarterback is what made y'all win all these games.
I understand your point, but what I'm saying is, to me, you still got a lot to prove. If anything, you still go out there and knock off Georgia because Georgia was an undefeated team until they ran into Alabama. So I think that would at least go to show that, hey, we was really that team. We was really that solid, and we need our recognition. And y'all gonna honor us either way. That's better than us boycotting the game, bro, and just not playing.
At it like this. Even if they win that game against Georgia, guess what? Once the players hit the portal, leave, graduate, go to the NFL, guess what? They ranking gonna drop. They it's not gonna be the same. And then now I'm looking at it like, okay, why would I go to Florida State? If I'm a senior in high school, and I'm looking at Florida State, okay, y'all don't get paid shit. Y'all get screwed over. I don't want to go there. Let me find somewhere else to go. Hey, it is what it is.
I mean, I see that. Hell, if I was a NFL scout though, I might be second guessing the players that's playing there because they don't want to play. They ain't got no heart.
No heart. So either way it go, for Florida State, it's a lose-lose.
Yeah.
It's a really lose-lose.
Well, there's the conclusion on the ACC, people. And I think at this point, me and Corey have made we have made a good summary of what the ACC is finna be. Dismantled like some goddamn broken Legos. Well, thank you for listening to another episode of the Houston Sports Connoisseurs. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, leave comments, let us know how you feel about this episode, and please get ready for the next one. Stay tuned. Thank you. It was a pleasure. It's good to be back here with my boy, man. Hey, Happy New Year, Feliz Navidad, and all that good stuff.